truthfully, Eric Chum, Vice Chairman of the MPP for the Tubu constituency, has joined us, and usually not very late. Today, traffic. I give you that excuse, and I know. The president is in New York, and Horace has been talking about how real the president's comment at the New York summit, as well as his interactions with the various officials on the sideline of the whole General Assembly, is a reflection of what really is taking place back home and his government is doing to resuscitate the economy. And did you listen to the president? Or did you listen to Sniper's office intel?
Yes,
of the speech? Okay.
I did. I think that the president couldn't have said it any different. Now, of course, it's important that we appreciate that we find ourselves in some kind of economic crisis. And the challenging aspect of the whole thing for me is the fact that we are very quick to make some pronouncements, because I mean, if we are not careful, what would happen is that in the next few months we start with a different narrative.
Well, we never know that.
Exactly.
Because
so
contrary to the Cedi is improving.
Well, it is, yes, marginally it is. But you see, the thing is that we all have to sort of take a step back and find out exactly why it is improving. There's some kind of inflow of cash into the system. You were talking about the Euro bond, and then the fact that the cocoa bond, the syndicated loan as well. So of course it will give that reassurance to the business community as well. And then the fact that we are talking about
the Bank of Ghana,
IMF, and then the Bank of Ghana now seeing reason to actually reverse the policies that they brought in reaction to the downfall of the Cedi coming from January, which in my estimation was knee-jerk. A typical example is when Bank of Ghana announces that they're actually injecting $20 million into the economy because the Cedi was depreciating, when we know for a fact that people in Makola and Okaishi probably have $20 million sitting in their drawers over there. So when things like this happen, I think that we have to sort of be a bit circumspect, making a whole lot of, what do you call it, there's like a carnival about it, because in terms of what the government actually says, which is that the structure of the economy, and I'm actually quoting what government commentators say, that the reason why we're facing the difficulties we're facing today is the fact that the structure of the economy is not right. And then I'll ask you, does it mean that in the last couple of weeks we've actually managed to restructure the economy? Of course not. So we have to look at it from a more long-term strategic view, rather than, I mean, the small gains that we've made.
Eric, the thing is, would you acknowledge that steps taken by government, and we know that after the first quarter of the year, and we're talking from April, a number of interventions have been announced. Even steps have been taken. We've had a number of dialogue sessions that have been convened, and policy directives that have extensively been announced, and we've seen a number of projects that are set to be part of the whole strategy of making sure the medium to long-term structures of the economy are resuscitated. Would you say that inadvertently these may have been working, or would be working, or are working in a certain direction?
Well, I mean, I think that we've seen marginal gains. I mean, it's open secret that in terms of the way the Cedi was depreciating at the moment, we're actually making some appreciation, which is good. Now, my challenge, and then of course it always becomes politics, is that the reasons that government communicated themselves have given for why we find ourselves in that situation in the first place is laughable. You understand? So I can give you a plethora of reasons. One, somebody even alluded to the fact that the drafts, somebody was saying that there's
but that's past.
No, that's what I'm saying, that if you juxtapose all of these things, does it mean that all of these things have actually changed? Because now we are seeing an appreciation of the Cedi. And then you also have to take into account the fact that the Bank of Ghana itself had seen reason to reverse some of the so maybe you can even argue that it was probably, some of it was even self-inflicted. Now, so once we are on the right path, and I hope that we are, because, I mean, the fact that we are in opposition as a party doesn't mean that we want the economy to run down, right? And then businesses and individuals and organizations in this country, for instance, would benefit when we have a stable city. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But then I'm saying that the politics of it, whereby communicators now, when you listen to radio from yesterday or the day before, and the narrative is that, oh, the economy is actually improving and we are going to do extremely well. And what I'm trying to do is that we have to be cautious in the way we say some of these things, because if we are not careful,
you're saying it's too
early
to
in
be
the
celebrating.
day. Because what I'm saying is that we know that there's three factors: the IMF loan that we are trying to get, the CDB, sorry, the Cocoa Board syndicated loan, and the fact that we got an inflow of cash from the Eurobond sales recently. You understand? And all these things, the moment it actually hits the system, and then it goes into. But
you said you can also make conclusions that these are all contrived. These have been strategically undertaken to make sure that the needed confidence that the economy needs is brought back, and then you should congratulate government for it. But the criticism against your government is that the initial forays and the actions that were taken that may have led us into this very state are still with us. The last fiscal year, that is 2013, we still saw exponential overruns in the budget, despite efforts and announcements and promises not to.
Yeah, I mean, decisions are taken, and I'm very happy that when said decisions are taken and they're wrong, I mean, they're corrected. I mean, for example, what the Governor of Bank of Ghana did recently to address the forex situation. So in the long run, if you take a decision and unfortunately you couldn't give a good reason for the decision taken, you would get into trouble. Now, for you to go back, correct yourself, it is a good thing to do, because here, although you might have caused some problems, yeah, you would have realized that, look, I have caused this problem. I have to change what I'm doing and then get the whole system back on track. I said earlier on that, look, obviously everybody accepts the fact that there are challenges, okay? And these challenges, if you want to address them, results will never be in a day or two, okay? Now, if you look at some of the things that my good friend has just listed, these are all good steps to get it back on track. You understand? And that is what I am saying, that let's sit back and appreciate president and government, because nobody is sitting back and just looking at the economy to just go down the drain. Let's look at it, appreciate the efforts that are being taken, and let us all contribute to making sure that certain things that happened earlier on for us to get into this, let's say, ditch, yeah, wouldn't happen again. You get what I'm trying to say? So in the long run, I think that we should look at it as a challenge, not a crisis. We should look at it as steps have been taken. Are the steps good? Yes, brilliant steps. I gave you the example of the energy sector, for example. Brilliant steps that will make sure that this country is back on track. Everybody is looking at it. The Cedi now is appreciating against the other currencies. It's a good thing. Without any effort, it will not appreciate. So certainly, that will tell you that efforts are being taken.
It's almost like a catch-22 situation or a chicken and egg situation. It's as if we're taking a step forward and a two-step back. Because among all these progress we're making is also the fact that the backbone of the economy, energy, is still very much unreliable.
Yeah, it's you see, I'm not sure if we are going to talk about the NI, for instance. Now
we'll talk something on street naming, so okay. I'm sure we'll follow on.
Yes, I mean, and just a typical example. You see, if we make some gains, right, and then we still do business as usual, for instance, whereby in the last couple of days, there's a report that the National Identification Authority, for instance, is out there right, to actually secure a $115 million loan for new ID cards. And you'd ask yourself, I mean, do we actually learn anything from some of these things at all? Whereby majority of the cards that were even done in the past have not even been given to the people that was meant to go to, right? And it's basically another way of actually wasting money that can actually go into more productive sectors of the economy. So if you make some marginal gains and you still do business as usual, whereby there's a lot of wasted in the state system, or we actually concentrate on projects that does not necessarily, right, impact the economy. I mean,
but the national identification system will impact the economy.
No, let me make my point is that we're talking about track records here. This is an organization that, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the way they do stuff, has not changed. Because as we speak today, people 4 or 5 years ago had their ID identification cards done for them, and they still have not received them. You understand? So,
but would you say that's a reality? It's also because they've not had sufficient funding,
no,
even though the idea was
may
have been promulgated some 6 years ago.
What kind of restructuring, right, has gone into that particular organization to make you and I confident that this time round we are doing something different? You understand? And there's a plethora of examples whereby we make some gains and then we actually expend the hard-earned resources of this country on projects that, in the final analysis, do not give us any value at all. So now, in the event where we actually have to start paying interest on these loans, right? And a typical example, and this last time I was here, I said it, that the government had made certain claims as to why we were in that particular economic quagmire, right? Leaving out the fact that we have borrowed excessively to the point that we are paying in excess of $7 billion, right, in interest per annum, right? So if you add that to the wage bill, and then you add that to recurrent expenditure, right? That's why we are well. So we have to look for more dollars, right, to pay. We have to look for more dollars to pay the interest of all the loans that we are accruing.
But I hope you're not saying that living on borrowed money is always bad.
No,
it depends on your priority of expenditure.
Priority, right? So you juxtapose that to how we spend our hard-earned taxpayers' money, and then how we spend the monies that we borrow, right? And top of mind, if I take a project like Atobo, for instance, which in my estimation is long overdue, I think that we need to expedite.
Well, we're told that it's 99% complete. They're only waiting for the oil companies to make sure the pipelines are laid.
Right. There is absolutely nothing that I can put my finger on that all these monies that we borrowed has been used for. So that's the challenge.
Let me just give